In this section, we will discuss how to conduct trades on your account, which we refer to as the fund, and attached client accounts. Before you begin to trade, you need to populate your order screen with market data. To create a market data line, select the asset class you intend to trade. Our system supports U.S. and foreign stocks, futures, options, forex, bonds, and covers over 100 exchanges worldwide. Using an underlying symbol, hit Search and select the one you need from the drop-down menu. The selected instrument and market data is immediately presented on the market data screen. The instrument you see on the market data screen is the one that will be traded for the fund and the attached client accounts. Select the buy or sell side for the forthcoming order, choose the quantity you intend to trade for the fund, and, adhering to the proportion principle, the attached client accounts. The proportion principle is based on the net liquidation value ratio between the fund and each client account. We refer to this as the share allocation algorithm. Before moving on, let's discuss the share allocation algorithm engine. The allocation algorithm distributes shares based on a single method. Current net liquidation proportion between the fund and each attached client account. Let's look at an example. Suppose your personal account, the fund, is worth $150,000 and you have 3 client accounts attached to it, A, B, and C, with net liquidation values in the amounts of $150,000 for account A, $80,000 for account B, and $400,000 for account C. The system then calculates a ratio for each account versus the fund. 150 over 150 for account A, 80 over 150 for account B, and 400 over 150 for account C, and adheres to the proportions of this allocation at all times. Suppose you want to obtain approximately 100% Dow Jones exposure by buying 1 Dow Jones Industrial Futures with a contract value of $150,540. The fund actual exposure to Dow Jones will then be $150,540 over $150,000, or 100%. The system then calculates the target exposure in dollar terms for each client account based on the proportion between the fund and respective client account. In our example, the system sets the target exposure of $150,540 to client A, $80,288 target exposure to client B, and $401,440 target exposure to client C, to keep the percentage exposure to the Dow Jones equal for all clients. The problem is how to obtain the precise exposure for each client. The value of futures contracts can be large relative to the size of client account, which makes it impossible to obtain the precise targeted exposure. For example, client B's exposure of $80,288 to the Dow Jones cannot be constructed via Dow Jones futures, as the minimum lot size of such futures is approximately $150,000, almost double what is required. Our different lot equalization technology allows the ATF platform to minimize the mismatch caused by the different account sizes and the large contract values for some financial instruments. In particular, each instrument with a large contract value has a predetermined proxy instrument with a lower contract size. In our example, Dow Jones futures with a contract value of $150,540 can be proxied by E-mini Dow futures with a contract value of around $75,000, and furthermore by Dow ETF at a price of $151 per share. For each client account, the system finds the best combination of proxy instruments to obtain the target exposure as precisely as possible. The real version also considers resulting liquidity position for each client, as margin requirements for instruments can significantly differ. In our example, when the asset manager intends to buy 1 Dow Jones futures for the fund, the system will automatically construct the exposure for attached client accounts by using the proxy instruments and will advise the manager to buy 1 Dow Jones futures for client A for a total exposure of $150,540, which is equal to the targeted exposure. 1 mini Dow Jones futures and 33 Dow Jones ETFs for client B for a total exposure of $80,263, which is close to the targeted exposure. 2 Dow Jones futures, 1 mini Dow Jones futures, and 166 Dow ETFs for client C, for a total exposure of $401,426, which is close to the targeted exposure. The match criteria, which is highlighted on each client navigation screen, shows the exposure precision or the difference between the target amount, based on the proportion principle, and actual amount constructed via the available instruments. As explained, by using the proxy instruments when required, you can significantly increase the match criteria. If proxy instruments are not available, the alternative method would be to use 3 futures for account C, calculated according to simple rounding. Our system, however, does not operate on a simple rounding basis, but rather on skewed rounding basis. In particular, when rounding, we always subtract the whole part from the actual number and then round the fractional part based on the following principle. Anything above 0.9 is rounded to 1, and anything below 0.9 is rounded to 0. So, if proxy instruments are not available, our system would advise to use 2 futures for account C. However, this method is significantly less accurate than using the allocation algorithm, since the actual exposure of account C to the Dow Jones would then be lower than the targeted exposure, that is around $301,000 instead of $401,000 using the more precise method. Now, let's see the actual trading process. After you have identified the correct instrument and you are ready to conduct a trade, press the Preview button to see the hypothetical effect of the trade on margins, liquidity, leverage, as well as on match criteria, before you actually execute the trade for your clients and the fund. The Preview button does not execute the trades, but allows you to perform a stress test. That is, it shows how all the relevant statistics will change if the trade is conducted without actually executing the trade. You can also see the instrument that you intend to trade in the Positions tab. This Position tab is shown in blue, which means that it is only a hypothetical position. No actual trades have been executed yet. Executed positions will be shown on the gray bars. If you are satisfied with the match liquidity criteria for all of your clients, as well as for the fund, hit the Execute button to transmit your order. When the order is accepted, it becomes a pending order. The Pending tab indicates that orders are working but not yet executed. Once orders are executed, the Pending tab will disappear and the position line color becomes gray. This means you have added a new position to the fund and the attached client accounts. The Pending tab does not appear in the demo version.